Hello, I'm Isaac.
Hello, I'm Michael.
Hello, I'm Sirip.
Hello, I'm Polina.
Hello, I'm Xiaoyu.
Hello, I'm Yizhi.
We will be comparing Tesco and Ocado and how they have adapted their working practices in light of COVID-19. We chose these two companies as they reflect two different business models and sizes in a similar industry that has heavily been affected by the pandemic. Tesco is a British multinational groceries and general merchandise retailer headquartered in Welwyn Garden City, England. It is the third largest retailer in the world measured by gross revenues and the ninth largest in the world measured by revenues. It has shops in 5 countries across Europe and is the market leader of groceries in the UK, where it has a market share of around 28.4%. Tesco's model revolves around providing the best service possible for customers through listening to and understanding customer desires, working with growers and suppliers to make great products, and working across different channels to get those products to customers in the most convenient way possible. Tesco already had an established home delivery service before the pandemic that relied on hand pickers collecting items for delivery.
Ocado are an online grocery retailer with an automated central distribution centre in Hatfield, where they deliver all their orders from. Inside these fulfilment centres, known as hives, thousands of robots fill orders with maximum speed and minimum human involvement. They can pick, pack and load a typical order into a van in less than 15 minutes. This means that, apart from 2 or 3 maintenance engineers, no humans are needed in the warehouse.
Let's look at the response in terms of demand and investment. Sales of Tesco increased by 9.2% in 2020. Tesco's online sale in the UK soared 48.5% in the quarter, while convenience store sales rose 9.5%. Overall, online sales now count for 16% of the total UK sales, which was 9% previously. Tesco has more than 1.3 million delivery slots available. At the same time, the retailer said the availability of click and collect, which now represents about a quarter of the online orders. Tesco invested in delivery vans, added drivers and stock pickers to increase supply. It also invested 65 million in providing personal protective equipment and other safety-related items.
Ocado has faced skyrocketing demand at the beginning of the pandemic. The visits to its website were 100 times the normal rate. To try to slow the order volume, Ocado shut down its mobile app and implemented a queuing system on its website. Sales grew at 27.2% in the first half as the business adapted to serve a material and sustained increase in demand in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Despite its warehouse constraints, Ocado was still able to increase capacity by 40% without adding any new infrastructure. They launched their 2 international customer fulfillment centers in France and Canada in spring of 2020. Ocado acquired Kindred Systems and Huntington Dynamics to accelerate the timeline for delivery. They have invested in seismic grid technology for Eon as well as other partners operating in seismic areas. 27% retail revenue growth demonstrates Ocado's ability to meet unprecedented and sustained demand for online grocery in the UK.
Response in terms of employment. In terms of employment, Tesco took on 47,000 additional staff within days to help cope with the increase in demand. Although at least 7,000 of those have already been stood down, partly as regular staff had returned. The company also hired 12,000 new pickers and 4,000 extra drivers and 400 extra vans. Emergency changes in the regulations allowed van drivers to work longer shifts to fill the high demand for home deliveries.
In terms of employment, Ocado was not really affected as most of the work is performed by robots. However, they were still required to employ an additional 500 workers, with most of these in tech sectors due to the increased demand in online shopping. And they are currently in the process of hiring an additional 600 workers. The main area that was affected, however, was the delivery sector. To aid this, they reached out to idled Uber drivers who were out of work due to the coronavirus.
In terms of financial performance, the gross profit margin has shown positive increases for both Tesco and Ocado. Tesco showing an increase of 0.59% and Ocado showing an increase of 1.2%. This could be because of the higher volumes of sales due to the pandemic, with both companies benefiting from economies of scale and lowering their direct costs. This is reported as Tesco has a better gross profit margin, being able to make more use of this advantage. The negative net profit margin for Ocado shows poor operational efficiency, although it has increased significantly from 2019. Tesco has undergone a decline declined by 0.57% in net profit margin. Overall, the positive net profit margin shows that the operational efficiency of Tesco was better than that of Ocado. The asset turnover ratio for Ocado has decreased by 0.27%, and for Tesco has also decreased, but only by 0.06%. Since the asset turnover for Tesco is higher than that of Ocado, it indicates Tesco are more efficient at using their assets to generate revenue. This could show that the company's extra investments into assets, such as extra vans, has had a proportionally lower increase to revenue than the assets they held previously.
The current ratio is the firm's ability to pay its current liabilities from its current assets. It has shown positive increase for both firms. Tesco's ratio increased by 21.7%, whereas Ocado's current ratio increased by 119%. This shows that both firms have become more liquid and are in a better position now to pay off their liabilities. However, such high current ratio of Ocado might indicate the poor use of resources. Debt to equity ratio is the proportion of debt financing in an organisation relative to its equity. A higher ratio means that Ocado uses more debt financing to the proportion of equity than Tesco. The debt to equity ratio of Ocado increased by a greater percentage than Tesco, thereby indicating better long-term financial position.
As for the limitations of the two companies, both Tesco and Ocado came under intense pressure in the first COVID-19 lockdown when customers started to engage in widespread panic buying. However, while both companies faced challenges due to the surge in demand, they responded to these challenges in very different ways. Tesco's online business model relies on pickers to pick items for orders in Tesco's physical stores, requiring little additional capital or labor investment when demand rises. Nonetheless, this model has its disadvantages. Many stores' stockrooms are too cramped to accommodate a sizable picking operation, which means pickers may have to fill online orders from the supermarket floor, putting them in competition with in-store customers. This is especially concerning, as it exposes pickers in an environment that makes them more vulnerable to be infected by the coronavirus, and eventually spread the virus to the customer. Also, as Tesco relies on a human workforce to pick the orders, the rate at which an incorrect item is picked for a Tesco order is around 1.2%, much higher than that for an Ocado order, which uses robots and has kept its rate of error below 0.5%.
In contrast, Ocado has been restrained by a lack of warehouse space and a bricks and mortar store portfolio from which to fulfill the additional demand for e-commerce orders. When demand rapidly surged, Tesco was able to hire additional pickers immediately, while Ocado was faced with the extremely difficult task of expanding its infrastructure, such as warehouse space and machinery, in a very short time. Looking into the future, the COVID-19 pandemic has the potential to permanently change consumer behavior in terms of grocery shopping. For example, in a survey by the investment bank UBS in the UK, 71% of respondents stated that they will shop online as often or more after the COVID-19 situation improves. Moreover, consulting firm Bain estimate that between 35% and 45% of the recent increase in online sales will be permanent. Against this backdrop, even Ocado's business model requires a significant upfront investment to increase the capacity of its customer fulfilling centers and warehouses. However, ultimately, the permanent shift in consumer behavior, in which consumers are increasingly more inclined to buy groceries online, may put Ocado in an advantageous position, as it requires less labor capital and its initial investment